Strand. I teach in the Mass Communications Department here at Moorhead State, and I think I should give you a sort of explanation about why my class is involved with this project and why this came to be. Class I teach is called Mass Communications 320, Layout and Typography. Last fall I was reading about the runic alphabet, independently of all the reporting that was going on about the Kensington Runestone. And it occurred to me that the Runestone, of course, is in runic. And I thought this would be an interesting project for my students. As you can see, that the replica of the stone made by the Smithsonian in 1948, which is down below me, there's certainly a great deal of typography to study there and an interesting layout as well. We are developing a brochure and a display for the Kensington Runestone Museum in Alexandria. We view Alexandria as part of our service area, and as I said, I thought this was an interesting project, something I could use to trick my students into getting interested in the history, tourism, economic development, public relations, advertising, all things that are wrapped up in this project. Tonight, before we begin, I want to introduce the director of the Runestone Museum in Alexandria, LuAnn, Patton, to tell you a little bit about the museum, the Runestone, and what has happened there this summer. LuAnn?
Thank you, Mark. It's really nice to see some nice faces there that are from Alexandria. Welcome. Thank you for coming and joining us. We've had a busy day. Mark kept us busy. I think I started out my morning at 5 a.m., so if I fall asleep up there, it's not that I'm not interested. Kensington Runestone Museum was formed in 1958, and the center, of course, of the museum is the authentic Kensington Runestone, not this fake going down here. This is just a replica. I do travel with the authentic stone, but I usually have a little entourage that goes with me because I can't carry it by myself. It's 202 pounds. This summer we have been invited to go to Vienna, Austria. So we are taking the Kensington Runestone to Vienna, Austria this summer to be involved in an exhibit called Unsolved Mysteries. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us. We will be one of over 300 unexplainable mysteries, as it were. Like I said, it will be taking place in the Vienna, Austria Art Center. In turn, we will be getting an exhibit from the Nordico Museum in Linz, Austria, back to the Kensington Runestone Museum. So not only will we be having a wonderful time in Vienna, showing off the stone and being involved in a wonderful exhibit and showing people in Europe the Kensington Runestone and getting out the word about the new scientific testing out there, we will be having a wonderful exhibit back in Minnesota that hasn't ever been in the United States before. The Kensington Runestone Museum will not be empty or void of a Kensington Runestone. The Westerheim Museum in Ricard, Iowa, has graciously agreed to loan us their copy of the stone, which is a lot nicer than this. It looks a lot closer to what we actually have as the authentic stone. And then we also will have video and pictures and things like that of the stone in Vienna, what the exhibit is about in Vienna. And I will take a lot of video of setting up the exhibit, which is being designed by a group from Japan, so it's really going to be high-tech, very, very educational. That will be there as well. So we've got a lot of things going on at the museum this summer. There's a lot of things going on for the Kensington Runestone. I'm pleased to be a part of the scientific and research team and putting everything together. It's a wonderful place to be and lots of fun things to come and see and do. Not only do we have the Kensington Runestone, we have a lot of other wonderful artifacts, a wonderful Native American collection, early immigrant history. We have a Fort Alexandria, which is a replica of the original Fort Alexandria. And that's outside of a bunch of log buildings that show you the way things used to be in Alexandria. Wonderful buildings that come and help and tour you through the museum if you need to be. And a lot of different information and a wonderful video that gives you history of the Kensington Runestone and history of the Vikings. I welcome everybody to come down and visit the museum. The stone will be gone after June 15th. It'll be back again in September. So without further ado, I know you guys are going to read and listen to these guys. It's very interesting. So yep, straight and take a listen. See?
Before I introduce our speakers, I might say a little bit more about the stone and what attracted story has been told in numerous books of those authors with our community. For the subject of numerous magazine articles, Time Life, National Geographic, Paramount Film Clip, and probably remember those in the newsreels that you're holding up. And of course, it's mentioned frequently on internet websites. I might mention one for you if you're interested. Dr. Richard Nielsen's paper, which is about to be published in the Journal of Scandinavian Studies, will be available at the website www.byu, that's for Brigham Young University, .edu/SASS, that's SASS. Our speakers tonight are Barry Hanson and Dr. Richard Nielsen. Barry Hanson is a chemist and a design engineer living in Maple, Wisconsin. He coordinates the scientific efforts on behalf of the Kensington Runestone Foundation. A year ago, he wrote a paper entitled Some Physical Features of the Kensington Runestone, published in the Journal of the West at Kansas State University. This paper examined the literature for all observations of the surface of the stone through the years, but made several specific recommendations for testing them. That article led to a book which Barry is about to publish, which is entitled Trial of Ola Holman, Accused Forger of the KRS, with an examination of all KRS literature. I believe there are 192 claims by experts, and they're going to examine one by one by Hanson. Our second speaker, Dr. Richard Nielsen, is a native of California. He was held by his wonderfully uninflected English. Doesn't sound like he comes to these parts, but he had a baby mother and grandparents. He is a graduate of the United States Coast Guard Academy in 1955, and incidentally, in 1957, he was part of a crew on a ship which was first to circumnavigate the continent of North America. Think about that. That crossed the North Pole to the Panama Canal. That was the geophysical year, we would call. He received 2 master's degrees from the University of Michigan from 1959 to 1962, one in mathematics and one in engineering. LuAnn received his doctorate in technology at the University of Copenhagen, Denmark, in Copenhagen in 1965. And the course of being a design engineer, living and working in Scandinavia, fluent in those languages, and took up the study of the Runestone and returned to this country as a way of keeping those languages current. He spent the last 14 years studying the Kensington Runestone, 2 years, very intensely intense study. And as I said, his paper he published in Scandinavian Studies. This next issue is peer reviewed by Dr. Michael Barr at the University College, London. So first, Barry Hanson, and then Richard Nielsen.
Thanks, Mark. It's really nice to see some familiar faces out there. Thank you for coming. There are some things that you'll hear tonight that you've never heard before. And this controversy has been raging a long time, and we do have some new information to present tonight. We're here to share that with you, and we're here to ask for your help. Also, because there's some things that you can all get involved with. And I'm here to show you some slides of some mysterious unexplained objects. And so we look forward to that. There's cause for celebration. Mark mentioned in the paper that Dr. Nielsen has published. We should maybe say just a little bit more about that, because this is the first time, in fact, today, within the next day or two, we're looking at the change of this whole controversy. The nature of it is going to change, because this is the first time in an in-depth study of the language of the Kensington stone will be published in peer-reviewed literature. That means that if a person does take issue with any of these points, that means that in order to enter the debate and enter the discussion, they have to do that through the peer review process. In other words, they have to then take the criticism of Dr. Nielsen's work and then have that published in the peer review literature. That's a very big, important step that we've made. We've also made some other big steps and important steps that I will cover a little bit later. You know, when I first started with an interest in Kensington Stone, I had a feeling that I was at the museum, like all of us at the end. I looked at the stone, we went on to other exhibits, I came back to the stone, I knew something was wrong. I had a feeling something just wasn't right. As I look at the faces out there tonight, a lot of you people I know, and I know how you feel, and I know that this has been a very helpless thing through the years for you. I have the same feeling. I came back to the stone, I looked at that picture of Ola Coleman. There are too many things that just were not right. I was a scientist, I was looking at it from a little different perspective there, but I also looked at it in a very unscientific way. I thought, you know, he said he found it under a tree. And the tree was only 10 years old. He was only on his land for 8 or 10 years. And here we have a 230-pound farmer winching over a tree that's about 1 1/4 to 1 1/2 inches in diameter. And I know, I burn wood to eat my home. And I cut down some hopper trees. It's something. 10-year-old farm. There's a farmer out here that's trying to grow up some trees, and his kids with him, and he's going to forge this and then lie to his son? I don't think so. He grew up with grandparents. And I knew those people. They had a strong understanding to do things, but something just wasn't ringing true. So I went off my way. 2.5 years ago or so, this is about 10 years ago, 2.5 years or so ago, my interest was renewed, and I said, I'm going to look into this a little bit more. I think that one of the books came out of something, I bought it, and I started to really get interested in it, and I thought, I want to really look at the others. I really wanted to know what was going on here. I thought, well, I'm going to do some study. So, it's only 6 sentences long, can't be too much to it. So I thought, I'm going to dig into the literature of it. One of the books that I read had the name in the cover, Richard Nielsen, and I want to give him a call. He had given him credit with helping on the book. So I called and said, there's only 2 Richard Nielsen produced, and I left a message with both of their answering machines. And one of them called me back in about a week. So that was the beginning of our collaboration and our relationship. That was about 2.5 years ago. And I chatted with Dr. Nielsen there that first time, I remember, and you know, I talked about a barrier that I felt. I had a real strong feeling that the farmer didn't do it, and yet, to get to the proof, there was a pretty big barrier in the way, because the people that were calling it a fraud were experts in it. When I was at the museum that first time, in fact, there was a stranger standing next to me, and he said, you know, that's a fraud. How do you know that? He's the director of the Historical Society. He's certainly the director of the Historical Society. He's an expert and authority. You should know. And I kind of let it go with that and scratched my head. And I thought, I'm never going to get that book like he's got to say. And I did. I started digging into everything I could find. I attempted to make an in-depth study. And one thing led to another, and I do have an engineering background after all. And you know how compulsive engineers are. They've got to organize everything, color code it, and I got into it and I couldn't stop. And so the result of that effort is a book that will be published this summer. It's the first really comprehensive description of the Kensington Runestone literature. I looked at about 45 documents that I studied, books and articles. 32 people in the literature have been described as being an expert. I looked at all of them. I examined this literature. There's about 20 writers in addition to these that appeal to these experts continually. Because it's on the fraud, you know, because the experts are telling this stuff. I said, well, I've got to look at these claims that they're making. They're claiming it's a fraud. They've got to have a specific reason for making that claim. So I added the claims up. There are 192 that I found. I did the best I could. If you have tomorrow, I'll add them to my list. Here's the list. 192 total claims. Number 1 was in 1899. That was number 192, about 6 months ago. Smithsonian Institution. Here they are. I said, well, I've got to take a closer look at those plans. This is just a summary of the plan. This is appendix to the book. As I say, the book is approaching 500 pages. And all it's dealing with are 46 words. It's not, but there's been a lot written about it. So I looked closely at these 192 plans. I organized the work that I was doing into themes that I found ran through the literature. I found 16 themes. I continued to organize and do research and work with Dr. Nielsen. I discovered in what I was hoping was a comprehensive search through this evidence, I found that there were two hypotheses, basically. Okay, we've got it up there already. Hypothesis number one, of course, is that all born Dr. Stone, Theodore Brady, was the opponent of this hypothesis. He said that Nielsen was criticized this stuff. And all Bowman had some books and materials that they found in his home, and said, all Bowman criticized it. That was his hypothesis. I thought, well, I'm studying the literature. I'm going to look at all the evidence as unbiased, as evenly as I can, both sides, everything I could find, and let's see with the evidence which hypothesis the evidence supports. Hypothesis number two is the idea that this stone necessarily had to have been carved in the 14th century because of certain features that could not be forged or faked. And so here we go. We're going to take a look at everything that's been said in terms of claims, all of the evidence that's been presented in the literature, all 45 documents, books and articles and everything. We're going to see which hypothesis is supported with the facts and data and evidence. And so I did that. I found that within those 16 themes, there were 5 themes that I considered to be crucial to the authentication of the document. In other words, the other 11 themes were either interesting and there may be useful information, but not critical. About 6 of those themes were irrelevant and had nothing to do with the Kensington. That's interesting in itself, because if you find irrelevant themes running through the literature, then perhaps you should be suspect of the literature. So I took the 5 themes that I deemed to be crucial for the authentication process of this document. And here they are. It says that engineering equipment failure. There we go. Here we go. Me, you can mistake. The dialect. Theme number 1. The Kensington Runestone shows an E dialect very clearly. Remember now, when we say it shows an E dialect, this has gone through the peer review process. This is not somebody's opinion. This has been checked and reviewed, and it is now written into a very respectable journal. So when Dr. Nielsen says there's an E dialect, there's an E dialect. Incidentally, the comments that I make regarding the things that I found in the literature, to make no mistake about it, are based entirely on Dr. Richard Nielsen's work. He's the language expert. And so that's why we talk every day for about an hour on the phone. But at any rate, it's based upon his work. So when I comment on the themes in my book, I'm giving my information from Dr. Nielsen. The first thing is dialect. It's also any dialect. Do you know what dialect all of moments spoke? As well as everyone else in Kensington is? It's spoken A dialect. Of the 32 experts in the literature, do you know how many address the issue of dialect? 1. And he didn't address it very, very deeply. He mentioned it in my book. The perspective. The second theme are room form. 5 themes are dialect, room form, language, numbering system, and physical features. So the room form would be another other area of study is crucial for the authentication of the stone. If you're going to call it a forgery, you must deal with the issue of room form. You must deal with the issue of dialect, as well as language, numbers, and physical features. So, there are 23 room forms on the stone. The room form is just the equivalent of our letter in our alphabet. There are 46 words on the stone. So one of the issues that must be dealt with, regardless of what side of the issue, are the words, the language. There are 12 words on that stone, on this stone, that were unknown by every expert in the world in 1898. Of the 23 room forms, there were 7 that were unknown by any expert in the world in 1898. The numbering system, called the pendantic system, it was not known or explained in the literature by any expert in 1898. The physical features of the stone, the fifth issue, the fifth area that's crucial for this authentication is my area. That's where I kind of come into this. When I started my literature search and went through the literature, just looking at the physical features to see what the scientists had said about the Kensington Runestone, I wanted to know what everyone else had observed before I started into it. I found out very quickly that the Kensington stone had never been in a laboratory. 102 years. No one had ever recommended that they take this artifact and put it in a laboratory and put it under a microscope. It was that easy. They have what's been termed the most controversial document in the history of the time. And they never took it to a laboratory to look at it. And so my paper, in effect, did make that suggestion. I had a revolutionary idea. Let's look at it. So those are the 5 areas crucial for this authentication. Also, in this process, I found some very interesting things out regarding language and linguistics. In language, the rules of grammar and language always follow the spoken word. The spoken language serves whatever society is functioning in perfectly. You never find an inadequate spoken language. In fact, there are about 3,000 languages in the world that don't even have a written compromise. So the rules in the grammar always follow that established spoken language. I thought that was interesting because of the 192 claims against the stone, many of the claims rest upon certain standards of correctness that the expert had established. In other words, they said it doesn't meet our rules of correctness. Therefore, this stone is a fraud. Personally, I think that conclusion is not warranted. But that's what they did. They set up the rules of correctness. In other words, the stone didn't meet the lesson plan of some of the professors. Therefore, it's a fraud. Or maybe you should look a little closer. The conclusion that we reach, I guess, to sum up, I can speak for Dr. Nielsen as well as myself, is that we can say without question that we know who did not carve the Kensington Runestone. The fellow right there. They said that he had these 4 documents. Actually, access to it, so he only has 3. The point is one underlying point that Dr. Nielsen will be driving. You cannot get from those documents this stone. You cannot get this. In other words, they said he used rosin. It's not difficult to list the rooms that are on the stone and list the rooms that are found in rosin. 11 are missing. One would ask that 11 round forms are missing. Where did they come from? And you're saying that this farmer invented it. And yet all of the experts did not know it. In other words, they are accusing this man of accomplishing something which they couldn't even explain. Is this curious? I think so. The basic conclusion is that the stone is not stuck. recognized at an early time in history from whatever reason, and it simply was not done. Either the physical features or the language. There also is a failure of the peer review system that I mentioned in this study. Nielsen paper is in a journal, peer reviewed. That means that there's proper editorial oversight. It means that it's been looked at by the professionals in that field. And it gets into a respected journal, and they want to stay respected, so they're going to be careful of what they let in. There was a failure of this system. There are too few peers. I don't want to be too hard on the experts, but maybe there just wasn't enough peers to review. I know in engineering, I know in the hard sciences, peers can't wait. Associates with fees to prove it. Didn't do something right. That's good. It helps me that serves the profession very well. But it didn't happen. Also, we have, I guess, kind of a psychological phenomenon. It is very inconvenient for this stone to be real. And that day is changing, I believe, because of some breakthroughs that we're making. The barrier that I talked about when we started is now starting to fall. We have an article in the peer review journal. The fifth area up there, physical features, which I've been authorized by the Runestone Foundation to coordinate the science, the study of the surface of the stone, is now starting to pay dividends. In fact, we're right in the middle of the process, and today I was faxed up the first report, which is the first interpretation of any data by a scientist. And I haven't even had time to go over it because I've been too busy all day. But it was faxed up to Mark's office. And this came out of the University of Minnesota Department of Geology and Geophysics. And let me tell you, that the person who wrote that report is a serious scientist. He's helping us. He's volunteering his time to do so. We're paying a little bit of overhead money for the use of the electron probe, scanning electron microscope, and some other equipment that he's using. But we are looking at this stone with a scanning electron microscope. And what we're finding is the stone is being the ground for a long time after it was caught. Dr. Nielsen?
Thank you, Barry, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. Barry, I have to compliment very, very highly the friend I met him 2.5 years ago. He's been assiduously working every aspect of the Kensington, particularly physical tests. He's been very helpful to me in the questions he asked me, and the emphasis that maybe I should be doing on some of my own research. I've always found his advice to be extremely valuable. And he touched a little bit on the question of dialect. I'll go into that a bit more. Those of you in the back can't see the text. That's really not too important. I'm interested in the map. Here's the key up here. This horizontal, the horizontal line refers to the dialect area, and we're interested in southern Norway. This is what I call the Skagerrak Bight. It's here in Dalsland, Warmland in Sweden, and it's in Gotland. It also exists on the island of Gotland here. It's very distinct. On the Kensington Runestone, the word Sitka is ending with an E, the word Ruda ending with an E, and other features of that type. It comes about in a dialect that does not emphasize the last syllable as much as it emphasizes the first syllable. Now, but there are other dialects besides the E dialect. There's the standard King's English, the A dialect. And this is the A dialect area here. Of course, the vertical stuff. Also, to some extent, diagonal stuff here. Now, they're Helsing land. That's where Bowman came from. We only had one letter. He wrote a letter phonetically to the Historical Society Windsor. And we clearly have a dialect. The other dialect in Hanson land was what we call a vowel balance dialect up here to the north. Harry mentioned that no one has looked into that except I must remind him of Hagen's 1950, fantastic philologist, expert in whole life language, who wrote probably the best paper ever written on Kensington and Runestone. And he properly identified the E dialect as coming from this part of Sweden. But also remember, Stone is saying that we have 22 Northmen who could be Norwegian and other Scandinavians. And we also have the 8 Jutherland who just forgotten. So that's completely consistent with what Stone is saying, what's on the dialect on the Stone. Now, interesting enough, the Smithsonian Institute published the volume last year about the Vikings, and in there was a discussion of the Kensington Runestone, and the authors claimed that there were traces of the Hanson land dialect on the Kensington Runestone. They also claimed that it had a dialect that was spoken only by the old-timers around Kensington. These are claims, assertions, no evidence, no further discussion. If that was the dialect that the old-timers around Kensington spoke, it would have been recorded. There's all kinds of dialect studies in this country. That would have been a fantastic thing to do. It wasn't recorded because it isn't true. It certainly both LuAnn and Hanson, together with Owens, the 3 accused, did not speak any dialect. That alone is probably evidence enough that they didn't do it. There aren't any other culprits, but there's other evidence. We talk about Roseanne. There's a rooms on Roseanne. This is standard Viking age room row, of which 10 or so of them were used all through the medieval period. Completely inadequate to carve the Kensington. A fact that Owens pointed out early on. There's only 4 pages of room in Roseanne that pertain to the old Swedish language. Walden maintained in his book that all the features necessary to carve the Kensington Runestone, save one, is found in Roseanne. Nothing could be further from the truth. He didn't translate these 4 pages. He should have. But had he translated, any English reader would have discovered that Roseanne, frankly, only tells you how to carve the Kensington Runestone properly in another way than it actually was carved. There's nothing in Roseanne that would allow someone to carve the Kensington Runestone. Maybe 5 words, common words like and, ship, that are and red that are in Roseanne that are also on the Kensington Runestone. It's ridiculous. We don't probably read tweets, we don't have time, but I just want to show you the 4 pages. I have translated this, and all the things that they say he didn't know would be in Roseanne, like the thorn room, he didn't know that it wasn't used for D and he used it for D. Roseanne is saying the thorn room is always used for CH. The fact that they say that it came up with the J room for J is because he didn't know that I and J were the same letter. Roseanne says that I and J are the same letter. Everything that is accused of not knowing are in Roseanne. But the arguments of the opponents of Kensington Runestone are indeed very flexible. That is clear. It's amazing the acrobatics that academics sometimes go through to prove, to talk against the points that they didn't discover themselves. So Roseanne there clearly shows that it was not used to carve against the Runestone. I'm starting this talk a little bit different than maybe you would have expected, because I'm not concentrating on the language yet, or the rooms really, but putting down some of the common misconceptions, like that LuAnn is all you need to target the Kensington. Actually, statements like that would have to be termed scientific irresponsibility, absolutely. And Walden guilty of that. And oddly enough, LuAnn, who should have read this speech, I don't know, he read the weekend, even went further than Walden saying that that was all that was necessary. We have a local legislature. This is the so-called Hagbard draft, which Professor Holden at Concordia here in the near neighborhood claimed that demonstrated that this was a pre-inscription draft. Without any question, he explained that. There's two interesting things about this. The first word on the second line is missing. The word "ves" on the third line is missing in this draft. It's a very important point. Now, there was another inscription that was published in the Swedish American Post in Milwaukee at the time. And LuAnn is claiming that this is Peter's copy. Now, the reason this is done is that the first copy I showed you, there's a lot of anomalies that were badly copied, and they're trying to claim that certain spellings indicated it was a pre-inscription draft. But it's missing a very important word.
This word is fall off. Actually, there's an I. The I is the ending of the word "this." The feminine. This are.
No one addressed that point. If this was a pre-inscription draft, that word would be on that copy I just showed you. Likewise,
this word "is" is not be missing.
but Walden and LuAnn are claiming the opposite. Now, what's interesting is Secret was Norwegian. And it's in the record that Greta, who did the first translation at the University of Minnesota, was also Norwegian. And LuAnn admits that Greta admits that he received the draft or a copy of the stone from Peter. It's only natural that these Norwegians correspond with each other. Every single translation that Greta made does not have these missing words I just mentioned to you. The second one's the important one. It doesn't have the "ves," which means by. Absolutely missing. Now, there's an interesting point. I don't understand why it hasn't been observed. The second page, after Walden shows the so-called Hagbard draft, this document is shown full page. This is the full page I just showed you.
It's called secret draft.
No, it's called the secret draft.
This one here.
It's a newspaper account in the Svenska American Post. Mind you, this is what Walden and LuAnn call secret draft. This newspaper account in Sweden says that this account was made by Holden and sent by Hagbard. It's right there. It's in plain sight. So the story that Professor Holden came up with that this was a pre-inscription draft proving the Kensington Runestone to be a forgery is based on a complete false premise. I have to ask you, why is it necessary to do this kind of thing? Why is it necessary to throw mud on the wall, which is actually quite easy to disprove? And why has it taken 50 years to know this? It's patently obviously. the third feature. That I wish to discuss, and that's the question of the pedantic numbers. The pedantic numbers are a special numbering system on the Kensington Runestone, which were also claimed by Walden and others to be true forgeries. There were two. One was that the 22 had never been seen or used in pedantic series, which they said ended at 19. Well, it turns out that the series goes to at least 25, because it was also the golden years of abstract. The golden year series is to denote the 19-year cycle of the moon, and hence how to calculate Easter. Then that was an important holy day, but they also used the pedantic series to calculate the day that Easter fell in April as well as March. The latest day that it could fall in April was the 25th. Here is a calendar from the 14th century, around 1392. There, the fourth one from the right, and 23. So when you think about the claim that because there's a 22 in Kensington Runestone and it didn't exist in the pedantic numbers, look, it has no bearing. This has been around and published since 1953. That's just an example of what kind of scholarship has gone into Kensington Runestone. The accusations come out, the assertions come out, but the evidence is to the contrary. The other issue was the 14. Now, notice that in what I just showed you, it's very heavily stacked. This is the golden number series down here. This is the number, in the particular year that you have that golden number, the second layer here is the date of Easter. Whoever came to Kensington had a calendar like this. There should be no magic that the pedantic numbers were used. Now, there is another problem. Notice how these are stacked. I call them vertically stacked. This cross stands for 10, and below you have other marks. For example, this first one on this line is 13. So the claim was that on the Kensington Runestone, when they show the 14, that was incorrect, and that had never been seen before. Well, the rooms themselves were often stacked with a common stage to save space, and that's what was going on the calendar. But there is a calendar in Greenland that shows 14 carved like this, as well as 13. That has never been noted by anyone prior to this paper. So actually the proof on the pedantic numbers now come forward. There's another fact. Nobody knew anything about pedantic numbers in Sweden, even the most learned people. They couldn't have done this in 1890. There was no knowledge of pedantic numbers in Sweden at that time that was proven in my paper. Demonstrated there. The other fact is that it was only on the western side of Sweden, the very area of the E dialect, that the pedantic numbers were used. They used a different series in the rest of Sweden. So it all begins to fit together. So we have three things with Owen. We have the dialect. It wasn't his dialect. He couldn't have known the numbers. And he couldn't have used rosander or other materials that he had access to carve the Kensington Runestone. other overheads on the language that we'll look at now on the other screen. This is the current translation I'm proposing on the Kensington. It's different than the conventional ones in the past because several words were mistranslated from the very beginning. I think they're shown on the second line, or the second slide. This report shows the word formula and dispute on the stones. And in the last 100 years, all of these words have been shown to be Old Swedish. Next slide, please. Over 12, it's probably closer to 20 words are obsolete in Swedish, in modern Swedish. There's many words in the Kensington that are still modern, but steam for stone, and steam for one, yen for home, and words like that that have always been in Scandinavian language. So these words are now obsolete. They did not appear in the dictionary in 1890. The most learned man in the world, in Sweden or elsewhere, did not know these words. They learned the dictionary. And they've been found in the last 100 years. That is compelling evidence on the Kensington website. 100 years ago, experts said these words were not Old Swedish. They've been proven to be Old Swedish in the meanwhile. How did a farmer in Minnesota get these words would be Old Swedish? It's probably the most compelling evidence about the Kensington there is. And I might add this. Why wasn't this investigated in this manner before? I'm the first one to ask that question. And I've checked all the dictionaries available in the 1890s as to what words were stated. There's quite a bit of detail in my paper about it. It's actually a rather simple investigation. Notice I haven't had to talk about Old Swedish to you. I've been talking about evidence, I'm talking about the results, the proof in this paper. But it's so simple. You see, if these words do not exist in the dictionary, and they weren't known to the Old Swedes, that's proven by the experts themselves who stated then that Swedish was a well-known language. They said these words were not Old Swedish, but they turned out to be amazing. And why has it taken nearly 100 years to find this out? So some of these words, believe it or not, have only been discovered in the last 4 or 5 years. Only 3 months ago, I found for the first time the famous from that was supposed to be the English from on the Kensington Runestone. Spelled F-R-O-N. The farmer confused English with Swedish with that. No one told him about it. No one told the reader that from was a modern Swedish word meaning time. How could a farmer confuse the word he knew in modern Swedish meaning time with from? And we already used another alternate word, alternative word, throw twice on the stone. They claim it's English, but they don't tell you that from means time. It's really escapeful. That's the situation. This has been the word that's been leading us because it hasn't been found. It was found in rhyme. And in Scandinavia, it's okay to use rhyme to demonstrate words. But when it comes to Kensington, you have to have a higher standard. This was found in a publication in 96, 5 years ago, on the diplomas from Nielsen. And in the diplomas from Nielsen, over 14 of the some 2 dozen forms that were criticized in the Kensington stuff are found to be correct. Words like the use of plural verbs or singular verbs in plural function, like we had OG and Kensington stuff, a new spelling for death, and on it goes. Next slide, please. There's another issue. Everyone said that these words in Kensington Runestone were not in the Old Swedish dictionary, which was started publication letter by letter in 1884, finishing in 1918. Everybody knew it was incomplete, but that didn't stop them from saying, these words are not in the Oak Ridge Dictionary, therefore Kensington is a fraud. Incredible to me. They didn't have a database to make any conclusion but one. That we don't know enough about Oak Ridge, we have to wait and see. This is only other documents. Mainly literature. It didn't really have things that were more important to having the dictionary. Starting in 1925 and finishing in 1975, they came out with the supplement on another 100 volumes. When the supplement came out, a number of words were discovered that were claimed not to be true. For example, lies RS was found, and a number of others like that. Next slide, please. One of the stumbling blocks on the Kensington Runestone was the issue of the double dot, where the experts claimed that the double dot meant they were umlauts. But then they would say shortly thereafter that the umlauts were modern, didn't come into Old Swedish or in Swedish, New Swedish really, until after 1500. No one ever said that in the 14th century that the double dots were used as an abbreviation. No question about it. For example, the coin of the realm was the mark. The abbreviation for the mark was N with two dots over it. It meant mark. Therefore, the abbreviation stood for ARK. Sometimes it was MR with two dots over the R for mark. It was a standard abbreviation known to everybody, just like you know the dollar sign. So how many of you know that the dollar sign with two strokes are really a simplification of US, with the U superimposed on the end? And that's what makes the dollar sign unique to us, but few people know that. Well, everybody, however, in Scandinavia knew that the double dot was an abbreviation in the 14th century. It's incredible, and yet this has only been covered by myself in the last 2 years. I had to think through the problem. I spent 10 years looking for early umlauts. I found them in early 1475. I got the idea to search the German literature because I knew they came there early. I was very disappointed to discover that in Germany already in 1300 they were using double dots, but they weren't using them for umlaut. They were using them for, guess what? Vowel abbreviation. It's a little disappointing. And suddenly I said, wow, that's exactly what's on the Kensington, but it's incredible. Incredibly discovered. And therefore, all the main points on the Kensington Runestone have been determined. This is one of the big stumbling blocks. Mind you, the issue was that umlaut proved Kensington Runestone was the forgery. Now there's an alternative to the double dot. No longer can that argument be made as a proof of forgery. And that's more or less how all of these get falls down, because they were not unique arguments against forgery. I have a number of other slides which are prepared for question and answers. Maybe it would be useful to open up for questions now. Or Barry, or are you going to continue with something else? Okay, after that, and then if there aren't any questions and answers, I'll cover some other points.
I've got just another short message. I noticed that there are people here in the VIP section who are friends of mine, very good friends. And there's some very good work being done out there by the average folks. It's not all being done by the language experts or the scientists at the University of Minnesota in the geophysics department. Judy Woodbush is sitting there. She's been doing research on triangle form holes that are found in rock. All experts said that they were blasting them. And we accepted that. Some people, most people accepted that. And Judy questioned it. And so she went out and talked to old timers in South Dakota and started collecting data and doing a very good job of cataloging it. She now has the interest of a very prominent archaeologist, actually, at the University of South Dakota, as well as a state archaeologist in South Dakota. It's an illustration that there's a lot of work to be done out there in terms of uncovering other artifacts. The Kensington stone now is looking very much like we've made a case in the lab where it's being authentic. The results are starting to come in. We're looking at degradation of certain types of minerals on the stone. We're making a very strong case that that thing has been in the ground for a long period of time. It's authentic. The language is basically been proven now with this paper that's being published. And so what that suggests is that there was some activity in this part of the country in medieval times. And artifacts have shown up. We all have seen them, we know about them, we've seen them over in the museum. I've got one right here, I'll show you in a minute. Why don't you get the next, move it on to okay, let's go ahead and stop. I'm going to ask for your help tonight because the next stage really is to continue with uncovering more evidence regarding these artifacts that we're finding. I want to, I've already started to do some work with analyzing metal on some of the axes we found. There are about 12 axes that we found in the Chippewa Valley, which is a small river that runs north into the Minnesota River from Montevideo on up to the Kensington area. And these are very curious axes. I started looking into this and realized that none of them, no axe types similar to this can be found in museums in this country. I was curious. I talked to the Smithsonian and said, if this is a pioneer item, if it's a pioneer brought it in, why don't we have any similar axe types in the museum? So right now it's unexplained. There are certain types of tests that you can do. This new series that's being done here around the world called net isotope ratio analysis. And I'm dying to get some samples of iron because these axes are hand forged. That means that they probably were done before crucible steel, which would be before 1740. That's a very curious thing. They show cladding. Only another one. Oops. You've got failure again. But cladding is where they found it on metal along the cutting edge and they actually thickened it. But the reason they did it is because they cauterized that iron in order to make it hard and then pounded it on by hand. Also, these axes show a typical ingot socket where the handle goes in. This is a very unusual characteristic. They show a very unusual shape where the blade is dropped. This is not found in pioneering items. The people in the museum tell me that this is not a trade item. It's not a fur trade Indian bartering item. So we're looking at that's the Hagen Axe. This is a bank in Danvers, Minnesota. And many of these artifacts are in people's living rooms and dining rooms, rural chests of drawers, and they found them in fields. Hagen Axe was found up out of original stock in 1875 by the first people that were on that land, not somebody that brought it in. Bill Moorhead and Axe was found under the same circumstances along Chippewa Valley. So we're looking for iron artifacts, and if you know similar things, and one very interesting fish rock we want to take into the lab. There are also items that look like pins that could have gone into rock. And so these things now need to be looked at closely, and we need to get small samples. If you can do it, this is a way to take the sample out of that socket sleeve without even being able to see the effect on the axis and artifact. You don't need very much. And we can take that to the lab and really learn a lot about that iron. So the original slide that was up there had my email address. It's KRSnet, chefnet.net, CHEQnet.net. And we'll put that up there again so you can get your pen out. This is not one of the hand forged axes that we're interested in. This is a tobacco cup, in my opinion. Other people may have other opinions. But it looks very much like this was brought into the discussion and should not have been brought into the discussion. This is not typical of the types of actions that I'm talking about. Go back to the YouTube. One of the things that we did find on the Kensington stone, and change subject here just a second, is on the backside, we found two suspicious white streaks going across the width of that stone. They're about 4 inches apart. They could not be identified as a geological feature. And we do have a scientist who's a soil, actually, in the Department of Biochemistry over at the University of Minneapolis. He says that a certain calciferous soil, roots going across stones will leach out certain minerals in the stone. We made a thin section of that, and we're now analyzing that, understanding electron microscope, because if that was an effect from the root, then that's more evidence that the stone was in the ground for a long time. Remember, if this stone was in the ground longer than 8 years, then some people have a very difficult time explaining how it got there. There's no woman right now who knows Dutch fact. That shows the root change very clearly. It also shows the drill the plug on that stone. But we get that horizon where the stone's reach right down. I want to be sure to acknowledge the people that are out there doing this type of work and helping us, and to remind you that there's something that all of you can do, and that's just to keep your eyes and ears open, and look for these types of artifacts. And if you find something you think is interesting, go ahead and email me. And something we ask of you is that you take a good photograph of it, and we don't want the artifact. You may keep it. If we can talk you out of a little nick, we try to do that. We can put a little bit out from the side of the top. We'll try to do that. But if you don't want that done, that's fine. We don't have to. Because right now, in fact, I have two people that are very interested in helping us. Both archaeologists in Sweden, the medieval specialists, have emailed the day before I came up here telling me that they needed better photographs. I sent them to Judy, actually sent them some photographs, and they want better photographs. They've identified the accidents that we showed them as medieval. Now, before we make a definitive conclusion, we need to do a lot of checking and we can find out for sure what they're basing that information on. But I find it very interesting that the medieval specialist in Europe is calling these actions 14th century. We're going to pursue that. But it's painful. What it means is that there's a high probability that there's more artifacts in the area of Western Minnesota. And I want you to watch for them and give me an email message if you see anything interesting at all. I'll be happy to talk to you. Yeah, there it is up there. We're going to open it up to some questions if there are any. If Dr. Nielsen come on back up and entertain questions if you do. All veterans.
I wanted to follow up on that 14. Support block, the inscription from Greenland. It's on the ivory butte and it's in the Copenhagen Museum. But what's interesting about it, I mentioned the Atlantic 14. It stands here. You can see. First line has 13. This is the H room. It has a value in the Atlantic series of 7. We have 13. 14 and 7, it adds to 34. It's interesting to note that there's 34 rooms, including the begin room, on the first line. But what's significant is the inscription is saying that this was carved on the Saturday before Rogation Day. Rogation Day is Ascension Day. Rogation is they walk around and march and chant. That's how that came, is Rogation. And the Saturday before Rogation Day is 34 days after Easter. Very interesting description. I mean, this is considered completely genuine. But no one has identified the common vertical stage, as I pointed out. So there you're looking at a 13 and you're looking at a 14. And the Kensington Runestone has the second 14 in the world. How did we get there? I mentioned diplomas. Diplomas were just a Latin word in those days for letter. Of course, we know what that means here. Here's an interesting diploma from 1349. It's on the Halloween, if you know, it's on All Saints Day. There are thousands, tens of thousands of these letters. All the letters from 1355 to 1400 are not indexed. In other words, they're not produced in text like this. They're just reproduced in photocopies in the original handwriting. This is the corpus of diplomas, tens of thousands of these that apply to most of the Kensington. And they're not part of the old British dictionary. The only way you can find the words in them is file through this handwriting. It's very difficult with a lot of abbreviations. And these will be slowly indexed over the next 100 years. So this one I'm showing you is very interesting. It says here, then shall he and his heirs that farm for all time. Reading it in the word order of all three. With the understanding that they give me back so much money as two good men on his side and two of mine on my side shall say the farm is worth more than the sum of money mentioned above. This is a mortgage. He mortgaged it for X dollars, and he said if he didn't redeem the mortgage, they got the farm. But he wanted the difference of its value as opposed to the money he got. What's interesting about this is 1349. Remember, the Kensington Runestone comes 13 years later. It's written in a language that we almost say today. It's very much in the style of the Kensington Runestone, and the Kensington Runestone has been criticized for being too modern. It's based on this letter, it's not too modern. There's a couple other things. They is plural subject, singular verb, like the Kensington Runestone has. They are he and his heirs. It's plural. Shall is, or shall own, it's singular. That's not the whole part, though. It says two good men. Men from the Kensington Runestone. It's supposed to be one of those things that was never seen in old Swedish. There it is. Just like our 10 men, spelled with an S. What happens, we know in English in the possessive case that we have an S in the singular, man, and we have S in the plural, men. But in our language is very similar to the Scandinavian, where these words came from. The old plural possessive was manner. But men invaded the plural possessive, and then in turn invaded the substitute here, as you see, the nominative case. Holy actually found this letter. And he brought this up. And guess what the opponent, Kensington Runestone, said? Oh, this must be a misspelling. Well, that's interesting. I guess that this can be misspelled. Something on the Kensington Runestone could be misspelled. But it's not necessary to use that argument for Kensington Runestone. There was no spelling convention. The spelling on the Kensington Runestone is completely consistent with the time. But this small letter out of thousands of letters confirms two major complaints about the Kensington Runestone that still exist today. Ivar Kjær at the University of Minnesota Nordic Roundtable in 1994 wrote 15 points that showed the Kensington Runestone to be false. One of them using singular verbs and plural functions with isolated. However, if you talk about any more, there's plenty of evidence that there is full evidence that by 1350, this was the complete usage in southern Norway. He's completely off base about this. But he also says that man did not exist, never mind in plural, which it does, but only in singular. And therefore, the 10 men on the Kensington Runestone proves it's false. It's wrong. He also said that Risa proves it's false, but it's in the Old English Dictionary, which he didn't look at. He also said that wrong didn't exist in Swedish, so I've already gone over that. It does exist in Dalva and Sloan. And it goes on like this. So it's been frustrating because nothing seems to get put to bed on the Kensington Runestone, even though discoveries are made, and this is why we're trying to change that with the Scandinavian study. Are there any questions? What reason is that, sir? Sure. Yes. In my opinion, that's my opinion. Actually, all of those translations were considerably in error. Yes, I will. Sorry. Your pleasure, sir. I'll point it out. This is the thorn room. The thorn room, by all early investigators, was simply translated by C. Is incorrect? It's a TH. Stands for Apogata, meaning acquisition, not discovery. The claim was made that it's Apogata, and it was essentially the early people in newspapers modernized the language by not correctly transcribing the rune form. So I might mention that in Roseanne, and everybody had it. Roseanne was published in newspapers. It clearly showed what a B was in Roseanne. No one had to guess what a B was. But this was part of the story. That this was Apogata, and therefore it was a modern word. They claimed that it only came into the Scandinavian language in 1700. And this has gone on for 100 years. They also said that Owen discovered the words in the newspapers because they were talking about Finland and Apogata Rising, which was discovery journey. Of course, no one ever seemed to have pointed out that Owen didn't read the reason. don't claim that he read Norwegian. He read Swedish papers, and the word in Swedish is upptäckt rider. So he didn't get this from the Svenska American Post that is claimed, but the word is clearly upptaget. It was a dual spelling of upptaget. It just means pick up or acquire. This was supposed to be the absolute proof that Catching Runestone was false, because they said that upptaget, upptaget, or the was modern. Now, surprise, I found upptaget already in Danish in 200 years earlier than it's been claimed. So even if it was upptaget, it's still an evil word. I can't hear. Well, you wanted to know the words in question. There's one more. Do you have time for that? Absolutely. No, it's dictionary. The PH is definitely was an alternative word. Hanson has written about that. There's plenty of it. It's found in the laws of Sweden and Denmark. The PH was an alternative spelling to PAGE. No question about that. It's in my paper. I've cited exhaustively. I've given at least 50 references to that. There's no question about this. This is completely been overlooked. It's quite clear. And I want to mention that I've gone over this with Dr. Michael Barnes in London on 3 occasions with my paper over the last year. He's checked my references. He did no question about that at all. Pardon me? Bird, probably. Bird, probably. You know that the times in records in Norway show that the Greenlanders tied birds to the church. That were black bear, bird, wolverine, all sort of hardy birds. They didn't exist in Greenland. But I think I've answered your point. The other, there's other words that they have translated like scary. It's not scary. It's sheltered. It's not island. It's good. These things have been maintained themselves in 100 years. So the early people didn't know how to translate it. Absolutely not. They translated that as it was modern. For example, the word logger on the third line. So what's going on with water is, first of all, it has an ER ending, it's plural. And it was claimed that it was camp. Well, lager is a modern Swedish word meaning camp. But lager in the Middle Ages, or the word for camp in the Middle Ages, was neuter. And it didn't have an R ending. But the word for traps and ambushes and snares, and also pill lager for territory, was feminine and had an ER ending. They had the wrong word. And that's Poland made that mistake, and no one corrected them. But the opponents weren't interested in correcting them anyway. They liked the idea that they had a modern word on the Kensington Runestone, but they're going to There's, my paper goes into all of this. There's probably 6 or 7 words like that on the Kensington Runestone. Another one was the so-called famous redwood, blood, and dead. The word is not dead, it's dead. And it's perfectly proper. So there's been a lot of misconceptions. I want to go back to that slide. Some of these things are absolutely inexplicable to me. Notice we have far to the west. When this was first found, everybody, the people who said, translated it in a few days, call that of west. Of west is a obsolete old Swedish word which means far or extreme. It's in the old Swedish dictionary. Anyone could have looked up? No one could have. It just assumed it was English out. It's ridiculous. And west is in the old Swedish dictionary, albeit about 1918, that shows it in the form meaning to the west. It's a very sensible expression. It says, we were on acquisition business from Finland far to the west. That's exactly where we're standing. Far to the west here in Minnesota. I find that quite compelling. And it's been missed. Why was it missed? Pretty proper scholarship. Actually, Holland caught it in 1910 and gave it up. I don't know.
Next on my email, if you have more questions, next on the email, give you rest.
Just one other small comment on Wagner, November, in translation. Those translations that you're referring to came out on February 22nd, February 28th in the Swedish and Norwegian newspapers. And it was a complete translation. Greatest translation was printed on January 14th, 1899. I've never seen any proof that those were actually translations. Anyone with a contact at the University of Minnesota would have access to greatest translation published on January 14th. So I'd like to see the demonstration. First of all, that they transliterated the runes, which means that they went from the rune form to the Latin letter form. I've never seen proof that that was the case. I think what they were doing really was commenting on greatest translation. So that's a point of contention for me to discuss. This is the place to do it. But get on my email and we'll certainly take it around. Any other questions? Okay, way back. Yeah. He's asking if there are other similar stones of North Rome, not necessarily exactly like this, in this area. He's not necessarily. The message really is unique. But there are 9 other rooms that have been found in various forms in this area. I was sent one from a person in Missouri that was found in southwestern Wisconsin. It's totally non-conforming. It's a soapstone that we know came from the Hebrides Islands of Sweden. And believe me, this is an interesting artifact. We put it under a scanning electron microscope and analyzed the mineral and then sent it back to them. There's a Roselle stone we found in Roselle, Minnesota, that shows all the way around the stone. It shows some kind of inscription, and we can take out about 6 rooms. It looks like a relief based on top of that stone. They're very good pictures of it. It needs to be computer enhanced and analyzed. The Elkstone stone found over by Nielsen. As I say, this is not the only Runestone that's been found even in this area. So, good question. There's a lot of evidence that this is really kind of a unique type of memorial. This is not really a Runestone. This is a Latin inscription that was converted to rune and happens to have been written on stone instead of parchment. So it's not really the type of Runestone that was done during the Viking Ages. And that, I think, is a really important point. It's not a typical Runestone memorial mark. It's a document that happens to have been written on stone. That's an important distinction. I think there's some other questions. Yes, sir.
I have questions to follow up on the first question. Is everybody originally misinterpreted the description? Is it perhaps possible that the way we for red is in other words, everybody seems to share the same ideas about what the town said? Or are you saying that one person taking and translating the
I'll touch on Grand Cape because that's kind of an interesting phenomenon. The Grand Cape, there supposedly are some capes that were made by Walter Grant, son of John Grant, in 1967, August of 1967. The Grand Cape supposedly are confessions of John Grant on a deathbed in 1926. There are some problems with the Grand Cape confession. In my book, I have about 4 chapter on it. The problem with the Grant confession is that John Grant didn't die. He lived for another 6 years. And Walter Grant, who was his son, was paid, not John Grant. So his son was paid 40 years later. And it kind of goes on from there. Also, Walter Grant is not known to be a very credible person, but what I can do is fill in on the details by email or something. The Grant case basically were set up, I think, pretty clearly by Franklin. The book was coming out in about 6 months, and he was desperate for evidence. This is kind of the way it was. But my book, I backed it up with a lot of science. What dialect?
What word?
Well, I don't have to memorize it. I'm going to take for example.
What word? What makes you think that is E dialect? Just because it ends in an E doesn't necessarily mean it's an E dialect. Okay. Well, I mean, we're interested to give the evidence. But there's nothing ever been written up in that. I just want to return to that point about other inscriptions. There is a saga rendition of the Greenlanders finding a party of East Greenland that had died 13 years before, starved to death in the ice. They were hidden in a cave, and they had written out in runes what their fate was. So that, this is entirely unprecedented, not necessarily. And there's plenty of business letters and reports and letters, information kind of things that are found in Bergen. It was used for general communication. I don't find that the Kensington Runestone is particularly unique in that fashion. I wanted to return to some of the issues. There's an important word here. I already mentioned that 10 man up there was found in this diploma. None of the people in the early days understood that was Old Swedish, which it is. There's a very important word over here. The inland sea, havet. Havet is modern Swedish for the ocean. But the origin of that word comes from Icelandic hav, meaning lift. And the way they characterize water was that it lifts the ship. The Old Swedish word is heva. We have it heave in English. I'm a naval architect. And you describe heave as the vertical distance that is the wave lifts the ship. And the Scandinavians defined water as to whether they were calm inland lakes or whether they were havens. Havens could be an inland sea. Very important because that qualifies Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, and Winston. And I can tell you, I've sailed on an icebreaker, coastal icebreaker in Michigan, in Lake Superior, and they're just as rough as any sea I've been in. So the Scandinavians would have termed those bodies of water as a haven. it's a big issue relative to the belief system that you usually hear that it was impossible to get to the ocean in 14 days. We only had to get to one of the three bodies of water. And that is a misunderstanding of the word. And there's a lot of effort that's gone into catching Runestone to resolve it. It's not into the analysis of the words in any great detail. The other thing is, of course, that Laura was always stated to be incorrect. That couldn't be spelled that way in Old English. It was impossible. This is by Eric Lorraine. But I found it. It's in the LuAnn diploma. Therefore, in fact, it could go both ways. It could either be singular for our ship, or it could be for our ship. It's one of those enigmas we don't know which it is. But certainly correct Old English. It's in the record. The other word, of course, is this word here, which in fact means property. It does not mean island. It's a neuter word, and it's properly modified by female, which is a neuter denominative pronoun. So it's consistent. Island was feminine. It was inconsistent with female. It was criticized for that reason. No one thought to investigate the word more thoroughly. So I would have to lay down that the early investigators, including Holden, did not translate the old convention and then is near it. Yes, sir.
On that last word, itself, the property.
Yes.
I call it old, I do not see it as.
Well, you have to know that H was often used as for TH or DH. And sometimes it was used for GH. It's one of those things. That's perfectly authentic. They often spell dead, D-U-H, or red, they would spell that R-U-H. It's quite common. And that's been completely overlooked in Kensington. But when you find the feminine word with a neuter modifier, then you have to say, well, maybe I don't have the right word. And that's the way that translation has come. Yes, sir. There's one other question over here. Yes.
I read in our school newspaper full translation of the British message, and you refer to acquisition during the process.
Yes.
And then Dr. Hanson mentioned earlier when he was talking about the active that there was people who were probably the attitude dropping artifacts and moving something. You also mentioned in answer to the question a minute ago that these people were probably either part of the bird, like doing some sort of bird or doing the first trade. You know, when the French come in and start the first trade in the 17th century, metal artifacts, French traders, they're almost secret in the archaeological record. We don't have any archaeological sites that I'm familiar with in Minnesota or Manitoba or Ontario that have metal artifacts, that kind of Scandinavian material from the 14th century.
Well,
We don't find that until we start trying to identify the artifacts and these are associated with French.
let me ask you this. Runestone, who was the head of the Danish Museum, came to the Runestone Museum in 1950. And he looked at Whippold's number of artifacts. And he identified that of the 22 that were reported to be or speaking Scandinavian, he identified 12 of them as possible Scandinavian. And of those, 6 that were found in Suku. Now, no one has further investigated those 6. One is whether, well, it's identified in the record. They're not necessarily found by Scandinavians, which is one of those other yards. They're found on Serbian farms and other nationalities in the virgin soil and piled up. I'm just saying that I'm not an archaeologist. He was. And he said they were they were medieval, and no one has looked into it. Why? Everyone says there's no evidence. He gave you evidence. It needs to be pursued.
I'm archaeologist here at the Moorhead for about 25 years. I've never found an archaeological site.
Have you looked at those? Have you looked at those actions? What have you looked at?
I have my point is that archaeological site. I have never read a report that explains that we have metal artifacts and metal objects that we know the site. Now, when people introduced metal in the 17th and 16th century, Native Americans were these objects that quickly put to use in the arrowhead and other things that they use. We don't find these in excavated archaeological sites. They always usually come from a virgin field just found 100 years ago in very landslide.
Your point is well taken, and I think that what we're trying to do is nothing more than collect data. That's all any scientist does. That's all you do in your profession. Is you try to be honest and thorough, and you try to do a good job of collecting data. And that's all we're trying to do. I think that we're at a very early stage here, and I'm talking about that isotope ratio analysis. And I'm curious, that's all. And if the artifacts, if you cannot find comparable acts tonight, I'm interested in it. I'm also interested in the fact that it's hand forged because it doesn't make any difference when it came from or where it comes from. A hand forged iron item is interesting for its own sake. This act type is not found in the Minnesota Historical Society. I think it's interesting because it is not explained. And all we're saying is let's do a good job of collecting data, and somebody at some time will interpret the data. I don't want to even begin to try to interpret data. What I want to do is encourage people to bring their artifacts and let us test them, and let everyone who's interested look at them and test them, so we can identify. I mentioned the lady down here who's working with the triangular form hole. That's just Marion Down, sitting down here. And Marion is a friend of mine simply because he's an honest little guy. He doesn't pretend to be an archaeologist. But the archaeologists came along and they said he's a blasting hole. So they immediately pointed out that the people laugh at us when she calls them blasting. I only would like to know what they are. We're developing some expertise in microdegradation, and we can maybe do something along the top feature of those things, maybe not. But she does have some archaeologists that are very interested, simply because she's gathering data which is interesting from a historical perspective, but from no other perspective. And I think we need to be careful about making conclusions and maybe concentrate just on collecting data. I want to. Yes, sir. Either address, we can happy to correspond with you, and the only thing that we can guarantee you is that we will provide references to any statements of fact that were made. And as far as the granting, that applies there. And the only thing I can say is that we do is try to document and reference our statements of fact and assertion. That's all anybody can do. We're just trying to collect data. Questions? Yes, sir. No? Yes, sir. So we also find that these studies. We're looking. He also took a chip. So he actually said there were 5% of the rock mineral type. Oh, I'm not going to argue with this. Yeah. All I can
bringing up.
Yeah.
Are you getting any closer to taking an exact date with like the more microscopic or microscopic?
On the stone?
Right.
So we're not trying to take a date, we're trying to determine if the stone was in the soil environment for an appreciable period of time. Yes, we are. We're getting very good data. Like I said, just got the report today by coincidence from the geophysicist at the University of Minnesota. He's very interested in proceeding. We're now going to do what's called a bulk chemical analysis so we can continue with trying to understand the degradation process of these types of mica so we can correlate them to time. But what they're saying right now is that the SNE, this type of mica degradation, takes considerable time, and there's other ways, there's other things that we can do to establish just a bit of a timeline. We're never going to date the stone, but if we can show that that stone will be in the ground for 100 years or 200 years, it would be carved in the future, or in the ground for 100 years or more. Would you be impressed? Thank you. Would you be impressed, sir? No, we can show it's in the ground for 100 years. I'll be jumping up and down and very excited. Oh, it's variable, depends on all kinds of variables. What we're trying to do is just very simply establish some kind of an understandable timeline. I'd be happy to share this information. Any information we have, we're happy to share. We invite the inquiries and we invite the interest, and we're very happy you came out here tonight to hear what we have to say and to ask questions. Yes, I have no idea what you're talking about, but if you could write down that email address and give me any kind of details with the phone numbers of the people, anybody involved, I appreciate that. We'd like to see that data.
You briefly mentioned about these triangular holes in the rock.
Yes.
I wonder if the ones on the local lakes around here, maybe we'll look at.
Well, Marion County's looked at 300 of them. And the other lady over there is doing nothing more than documenting where they are, what their orientation, what kind of rock is. She's just doing a very good job of collecting data. And because she's doing a good job of collecting data, we have some archaeologists in South Dakota very interested in talking to her. So all we're saying is that if the archaeologists in South Dakota are interested in them, then she must be producing some kind of data that's valid. Well, you can't hear me with that, but they're all over the place. No one calls them one. They're unidentified in triangular form. They're smaller than dynamite stick. The people say that the blast stones are much happier. No one's ever heard of a pioneer farmer going out and wasting half a day. I tell you that. They didn't do that. Some other things. But anyway, the fact is, that's all. But yet the archaeologists in Minnesota told us about it. They just interviewed one time. So what we're doing is just trying to ask. Just trying to collect data and collect information and be thorough and not make too false conclusions. Does anyone else? Right? We'll put anybody in touch. You can use that email address to explain how now exchange anybody and help other people gather information too. Yeah, you can do that. Sure. In 1899?
I'm only citing what the tweet said themselves. It was unknown by the most learned. There was a Latin publication by LuAnn, actually, named from 1643. And the kinetic theory to 19 was known in the stacked situation. The fact that it went to 25 was not known, and the fact that it could be used as unit digits and on the King Thorax inscription was actually known from 1824, was not understood. And so it's very difficult to see how that could have got on the Kensington Runestone, particularly the use of 22 when common knowledge was that it ended at 19.
Farmers in Minnesota who translated the thing that appeared in the paper were able to translate those numbers in 20. Yes, I'm sure that's all they did.
Well, I don't think about that. Well, the point is, if the numbers are on the stone, it's clear what they are. They're not difficult to interpret. But the 22 was not known anywhere to be used as a unit digit. It was only, if they knew anything, first of all, the 22 was not known at all at the kinetic number. But if you have
All of the translators from Minnesota able to recognize it and translate it because of all.
well, look, if here's the 2, isn't it patently obvious to you that that's 2? I mean, it's finger counting. Well, apparently you're maintaining that if you look at that, you can guess that it's a 2. Okay, well, well,
I take a few quick shots, but this is a good question. And the way I think of it is this: transliterating means that you have the root form in front of you, and then you try to figure out what Latin letter that root form is for. There's a big difference between going from a root form to a letter and originating the root. Okay? Big difference. Now, we'll continue on things, but
here's a 14 that did not exist in all forms. It was vertically stacked. It wasn't as unit digits like a separate 1 and a separate 4. It exists on the King Thorax inscription. It's the 1 and the 4. The only 2 places it exists. Now, this was first discovered in 1824, but was not well known, only by the most learned. So it's a possibility that someone could have known about this, put the 14th on the Kensington Runestone. Then I got to say the scholar who carved the Kensington Runestone is far more knowledgeable than the experts of the day, which is really quite a stretch.
So then the farmers who translated were also more knowledgeable than the scholars of the day.
So I think I've made my point. It's okay that it's debatable. It's really the sum total of knowledge that adds up. One thing that we're talking about here, though, you cannot use the phonetic numbers as proof of forgery. That's the point. You may maintain that a farmer knew them. You can't say that you can't use it as proof of forgery, which is up to now it's been used. Because there's a 14th century explanation for it. That's the important point. That's true of everything on the Kensington Runestone. You can pretend that it's modern, but if there's a 14th century explanation for it, you can't use it as proof of forgery, and that's all I've been saying. I'm only telling you today that there is no proof of forgery theory that is unique to holds water. We all have holes in them because it's the 14th century explanation for it. I'll give you another interesting piece of evidence. The book X Room on the Kensington Runestone. translated rune in the runic alphabet. And of course, in the phonetic series, there's the phonetic numbers, but there's also the runic series, there's Roman numbers, there's Arab numbers, all are equivalent. So the fact that a 10 could be used for A is no real surprise. But I was able to find a book in the Roman inscription in Scotland. Here it is. This is rather interesting that they differentiated the 10, the X with a little hook. And that's the same way it's on the edge of the Runestone. They rotated 90 degrees. Now, the fact that they used 10 is also demonstrated by, for example, look at that. This is a runic calendar found in Bologna in Italy. It was made in Paris in 1514. Oddly enough, 5 of them have been found. One of them in Berlin, another one in Paris, and 2 in Copenhagen. And it's very interesting that we use the Arab 10, see this little flag? That was an alternative to a 0 for A on this golden series. Okay. There's the Arab. Yeah. So we have a situation that we have a runic inscription with a hook X, and we have a proof that the 10 is used as substitutions of A rune. That's on the Kensington Runestone. To me, this is very, very compelling evidence. And the chances of finding this, I can't believe that I was able to find it. I didn't expect it. So when I started to look for it, it turned out to be rules sometimes, and I found it by accident. There's a number of other features, but we don't really have time to go into it. This is have the finale here on the J rune. And the word, talk about translation. They never got that rune right. And here it exists in the oldest runic manuscript in Scandinavia on the Canada law. And everyone maintained that J was the modern invention of the farmer, with J, in spite of the fact that LuAnn had told them that I was used for J. And they made up this word CR, for spirit. And it's shown on the inscription with 2R, which can mean shelter. It also means family. Actually, it's the same concept then. The 2R, your protector. Your family protected you. You had an obligation to the family. And shelter is sort of the same thing. So there's lots of explanations. Those early translators of the Kensington Runestone never got the J rune right. No one knew about this until I discovered it in 1987. But it's right in front of everybody's eyes. So you have to explain how this compelling evidence can come forth, debunking the supporters here. Very compelling.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
If you want to visit with Ted, they'll be over at the Union in the lounge.
He is the Union in the lounge for a little bit.